Welcome, weary travelers, to a tale spun through millennia, the Mahabharata. Let's embark on a slow, soothing exploration of this epic, without rushing, allowing the story to unfold like a calm river. Imagine yourselves nestled comfortably, the weight of the day gently slipping away. Close your eyes and let the ancient words wash over you. The story begins, as many great stories do, with a family. The Kuru family, kings and princes, powerful and wealthy beyond measure, lived in a land of rolling hills and sacred rivers. Their lives, however, were far from peaceful. Ambition, like a subtle poison, slowly worked its way into their hearts, weaving discord amongst the brothers and their sons. Imagine the sun setting over the vast plains, casting long shadows as these powerful men plotted and schemed, their whispers carried on the evening breeze. At the heart of the story are two branches of the family, the Kauravas and the Pandavas, cousins bound by blood yet separated by a growing chasm of resentment. The 100 Kaurava brothers, born through a magical boon, lived in opulent splendor, their lives seemingly perfect. Yet a darkness lurked beneath the surface, a simmering jealousy toward their 5 cousins, the Pandavas, who possessed extraordinary skills and a captivating charm. You might picture the Pandavas as young men, strong and noble, skilled warriors, but also compassionate souls. Think of Arjuna, the most skillful archer the world had ever seen, his aim as true as the North Star. Or Yudhisthira, the eldest brother, always striving to do what is right, even when faced with impossible choices. Their lives, though privileged, were far from easy. They faced betrayal, exile, and ultimately a devastating war. But before the clash of swords and the thunder of battle, there is a quiet elegance to the early part of the tale. Imagine the brothers playing games in the sun-dappled forests, the laughter of youth echoing amongst the trees. Picture them learning from wise teachers, their minds sharpening like polished blades. Even as the seeds of conflict are sown, there's a gentle unfolding, a slow build-up of tension, like the gradual gathering of storm clouds on a summer afternoon. This isn't a tale of immediate violence. It's a story of relationships, of choices, of the slow erosion of trust. Think of the beautiful Draupadi, the princess, who becomes the wife of the 5 Pandava brothers, a union that both strengthens and complicates their lives. Picture her grace and wisdom, her strength in the face of unimaginable adversity. Picture the vibrant colors of her silks, the gleam of her jewelry, against the backdrop of the royal courts. The narrative unfolds, slowly, deliberately, allowing you to breathe, to feel the emotions of these ancient characters, to walk alongside them on their long and winding journey. And as the story continues, you'll find yourself drawn deeper into their world, into their triumphs and their tragedies, into the heart of this epic tale. Let the gentle rhythm of the narrative lull you into a peaceful slumber. Breathe deeply, relax, and let the Mahabharata's ancient wisdom soothe your mind. The Kuru Dynasty. Picture vast palaces rising from the fertile plains, shimmering under the Indian sun. Generations lived and died within those walls, their lives a tapestry woven with threads of power, privilege, and, ultimately, bitter conflict. Imagine the cool marble floors beneath your bare feet, the scent of jasmine and sandalwood hanging heavy in the air, a comforting stillness broken only by the gentle murmur of fountains. But beneath the surface beauty, a simmering unease brewed. This was a family of kings, princes, and princesses, each with their own dreams, their own desires. The throne, a magnificent seat of power carved from a single enormous piece of jade, held a magnetic allure. It promised not only dominion over a sprawling kingdom, but also the continuation of a lineage stretching back through centuries. Each heir apparent, each ambitious cousin, each hopeful younger brother felt the pull of that jade seat. Dhritarashtra, the eldest, a man of immense stature but blinded from birth, ascended the throne. A shadow of doubt, however, fell over his reign. His younger brother, Pandu, was a charismatic warrior, a natural leader, and his claim to the throne was as strong as his arm. A sense of injustice, like a slow-burning ember, was already present in the hearts of some. The whispers began then, faint at first, a rustling of discontent in the grand halls. They spoke of birthright, of destiny, of the unfairness of fate. Pandu, ever the honorable man, renounced his claim. He retreated to the forest, leaving his brothers and their plots to simmer in the court's elaborate gardens. But his sons, born through divine intervention, grew up amidst those whispers, each word a seed of resentment planted in their young minds. The 5 Pandava brothers, Yudhisthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, a family unit of almost impossible strength and unity, formed a stark contrast to the simmering discord of their paternal family. Their cousins, the Kauravas, 100 sons of Dhritarashtra, felt their power and privilege threatened by this close-knit group, their strength and the respect they received. The seeds of envy took root deep within the hearts of the Kauravas, nurtured by whispers of ambition and stoked by the subtle manipulations of scheming advisers. The weight of expectation, the constant jostling for position, the subtle digs and veiled threats, these were the silent weapons of the Kuru court, sharper than any sword. Each quiet conversation in the palace gardens, each exchanged glance across the bustling courtyards held the potential for conflict. The air itself, thick with unspoken tensions, felt heavy with the weight of the future. The mighty kingdom, once a beacon of strength and prosperity, began to crack under the strain of familial discord. And as the night deepens and sleep draws closer, you might imagine the hushed, sorrowful sighs of the Kuru clan, their lives consumed by the simmering embers of their own making. Let the quiet hum of these ancient conflicts lull you into a peaceful slumber. In a grand kingdom, nestled amidst rolling hills and ancient forests, lived a king named Pandu. He was a righteous man, loved by his people, but burdened by a curse. A sage, angered by a transgression, had decreed that Pandu would die if he ever embraced his wife in love. His heart heavy with sorrow, Pandu lived a life of quiet contemplation, his only solace his 2 wives, Kunti and Madri. Kunti, wise and beautiful, possessed a divine boon. A celestial being, Durvasa, had gifted her a mantra, a sacred sound that could summon the gods to grant her children. Secretly, before her marriage to Pandu, she invoked the mantra, summoning the sun god Surya himself. From this union, a son was born, radiant and strong, named Karna. But, fearing the judgment of the court, Kunti abandoned him, placing him in a basket on the river. Years passed, and Pandu, longing for heirs to his throne, finally found comfort in Kunti's arms. But the curse loomed over them. With a heavy heart, they agreed to try another path. Kunti used the mantra again, summoning the wind god Vayu. From this sacred union came Yudhisthira, the eldest Pandava, a prince of impeccable virtue and wisdom. Then she called upon Indra, king of the gods, who bestowed upon them Arjuna, the warrior of unmatched skill, destined for great feats of strength and bravery. Finally, she summoned the twin Ashwini Kumaras, divine physicians, who granted her the twins, Nakula and Sahadeva, equally adept in warfare and diplomacy. These 5 brothers, the Pandavas, were born under a constellation of blessings and prophecies. Their destinies were intertwined with the fate of the kingdom, a web of intricate threads spun by the gods themselves. Meanwhile, Madri, Pandu's other wife, also desired children. Guided by Kunti's example, she too invoked the Ashwini Kumaras, receiving twin sons. These twins, though born under similar circumstances, were destined for a different path. Theirs was not to be a path of glory and righteous triumph, but rather a journey fraught with ambition, resentment, and the shadow of conflict. At the same time, another queen in a neighboring kingdom bore 100 sons. Dhritarashtra, Pandu's elder brother, who was blind but wise in many other ways, was the father of this extraordinary brood, the Kauravas. Each birth was a whisper in the wind, a shift in the balance of power. Each child was a ripple in the still waters of the kingdom, growing into a wave that would eventually crash against the shores of destiny. The 100 Kauravas, their birth echoing in the halls of the palace, were an impressive force. But the weight of their numerous ambitions was felt as a silent pressure, an unspoken tension simmering beneath the surface of their royal existence. The combined birth of these 105 princes, the Pandavas and Kauravas, painted a picture of immense power, of potential greatness and unimaginable conflict. Their lives, from their very beginnings, were infused with a palpable sense of destiny, a weight that would shape not only their individual lives, but the fate of generations to come. The seeds of war and peace lay dormant within their hearts, ready to sprout and blossom in the rich but treacherous soil of their royal inheritance. As you drift off to sleep, picture them, these princes, a tapestry woven from gods and men, dreams and ambitions, peace and war, all unfolding slowly, gracefully, under the watchful eyes of the heavens. The flickering candlelight cast long shadows across the worn wooden table, illuminating the small ivory dice as they tumbled. A quiet tension hung in the air, thick and heavy like the scent of old parchment. It was a simple game, really, just a roll of the dice, a test of chance. Yet, in that dimly lit room, within the confines of a seemingly insignificant gamble, the fate of nations trembled. Imagine the scene, if you will, the rough-hewn table, the hushed whispers, the glint of anticipation in the player's eyes. King Louis, his face etched with the weight of 1,000 decisions, watched intently. his brow furrowed, his fingers tracing the rim of his goblet, untouched wine swirling gently within. Opposite him sat the Duke, a man known for his cunning and his ambition, his expression carefully neutral, betraying nothing of the calculations swirling within his mind. The stakes were high, far beyond the paltry sum of gold they'd wagered. This was a game for power, for influence, for the very soul of a kingdom. The dice clicked softly against the wood, a rhythmic sound that gradually lulled the senses. A low murmur escaped the king's lips as the numbers settled. A 3 and a 5, an 8. The Duke's turn. He picked up the dice, his fingers lingering on their cool, smooth surfaces, a moment suspended between fate and decision. Then, with a deliberate, almost theatrical flourish, he rolled. The dice spun, a tiny whirlwind of ivory and chance in the candlelight. They slowed, then stopped. A 4 and a 4, a solid 8, a tie. Another roll. This time the king's luck faltered, a 7. The Duke, however, rolled an 11. The quiet rustle of fabric as the king shifted in his seat. Even in the darkness, you could almost feel his frustration. He leaned forward, a subtle shift in his posture, barely perceptible but significant all the same. The weight of his crown, usually a symbol of authority, now seemed to press upon him, a physical manifestation of his anxieties. He could have called for a recount, a challenge to the fairness of the game. He could have declared the match null and void. But he didn't. Perhaps the weariness of years of relentless political maneuvering weighed more heavily upon him than the loss of this particular game. Perhaps a deeper wisdom urged him towards acceptance. Whatever the reason, he conceded. The Duke's victory, secured by the seemingly insignificant fall of the dice, would have unforeseen consequences. The Duke's elevation to a position of greater influence triggered a chain of events, a ripple effect that spread through the kingdom, shaping alliances and shifting power dynamics. Wars were fought, treaties were broken, and the very landscape of the kingdom was redrawn, all because of that fateful game of dice. So let the gentle sound of the dice, a soft clicking, a gentle rolling, drift through your mind, a peaceful reminder of the unpredictable dance of fate as you drift into sleep. Sleep soundly now. The forest embraced them, a vast green ocean of towering trees and whispering leaves. Years stretched out before the Pandavas, a slow unfolding of hardship and resilience. Imagine the gentle rustling of leaves, a constant, soothing murmur as you drift toward sleep. Think of the sun dappling through the canopy, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns of light and shadow. That was their world now, a world far removed from the opulence of the palace. Their days began with the rising sun and ended with the stars, a simple rhythm dictated by the needs of survival. Yudhisthira, ever the eldest brother, guided them with his wisdom, though the weight of their exile often etched lines of worry on his brow. Arjuna, the master archer, practiced his skills, the twang of his bow a rare, melodic sound in the quietude of the forest. Bhima, with his immense strength, hunted for food, his powerful frame a reassuring presence amongst the dense undergrowth. Nakula and Sahadeva, twins so alike they seemed reflections of one another, tended to their needs, their gentle hands caring for their family and their surroundings. The forest tested them in countless ways. They faced wild animals, their roars a sudden startling interruption to the peaceful rhythm of their lives. Sometimes hunger gnawed at their bellies, a relentless reminder of their precarious existence. The elements were unpredictable. Scorching heat gave way to torrential rain, testing their endurance and ingenuity. They slept under the open sky, their bodies pressed close together for warmth and comfort, a bond forged in the crucible of shared adversity. But hardship did not break them. Instead, it strengthened their bond. They learned to rely on each other, each brother contributing their unique strengths to their survival. They shared their meager meals, their laughter and sorrows, their hopes and fears. Their exile was not just a punishment. It was a crucible that refined their spirits, strengthening their resilience, making them more closely knit than ever before. They encountered sages and hermits, wise men who offered guidance and counsel. These encounters offered moments of solace, of learning and reflection, amidst the arduous journey of their exile. They shared stories, lessons whispered in the quiet hush of the forest. They learned patience, empathy, and the importance of connection with nature and each other. The whispering leaves carried their secrets, their hopes, their fears, their stories. And in the stillness of the forest, under the watchful gaze of the stars, their spirits grew stronger, their resolve unyielding. The rustling of the leaves was a lullaby, a soothing reminder of their resilience, a constant presence that accompanied them on their long, arduous journey through the forest. Let the gentle sounds of the forest lull you into a peaceful slumber. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and soft purple. A gentle breeze rustled through the leaves of the banyan tree, its ancient branches providing a cool shade. Arjuna, weary from the weight of his anxieties, sat beneath it, his heart heavy with the burdens of impending war. He'd sought solace in the quiet solitude of the forest, but even the tranquil setting couldn't quiet the turmoil within. Then a figure appeared, a radiant being, seated cross-legged on a simple woven mat. It was Krishna, his skin the color of polished bronze, his eyes deep and knowing, holding a flute that seemed to hum with a quiet inner melody. Arjuna felt a wave of calm wash over him, a soothing balm against his troubled spirit. Krishna didn't speak immediately. He simply smiled, a gentle, reassuring smile that spoke volumes. He offered Arjuna a simple, cool drink of water, its taste pure and refreshing. The act, seemingly small, washed away some of Arjuna's tension. Finally, Krishna's voice, soft as the murmur of a stream, broke the silence. "My dear Arjuna," he began, "I see the burden you carry. The weight of duty, the fear of conflict, the uncertainty of the future, they press heavily upon you." Arjuna nodded, unable to find the words to express the turmoil within. Krishna continued, his words flowing like a gentle river. "The path of Dharma, the path of righteousness, is not always easy. It is often shadowed by doubt and fear. But know this, Arjuna, that even in the darkest of nights, a single star can guide your way." He gestured to the vast expanse of the night sky, now sprinkled with countless stars. Each star represents a choice, a decision you must make. Some paths may seem alluring, promising immediate gratification, but lead to darkness. Others may be arduous, demanding sacrifices, but ultimately lead to light. Krishna's voice grew slightly more resonant. The battlefield you face is not just a physical one, Arjuna. It is a battlefield within your own heart. The battles you fight against your own doubts, your fears, your uncertainties, these are the truest battles. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. The gentle breeze seemed to carry his message, whispering it to the very leaves of the banyan tree. Do not be afraid of the challenges ahead. Embrace the Dharma that resides within you. Let your actions be guided by righteousness, compassion, and wisdom. Your strength lies not only in your skill with weapons, but in the strength of your spirit. Krishna picked up his flute, and a soft, lilting melody drifted through the air. It was a melody that spoke of courage, of peace, of acceptance. It was a melody that soothed the troubled heart of Arjuna, filling him with a sense of quiet determination. As the notes faded into the stillness of the night, Arjuna felt a profound sense of calm settle over him. The burdens he carried still weighed upon him, but now he felt equipped to face them. He had found guidance, he had found solace, and he had found the strength to proceed. The war still awaited, but the turmoil in his heart began to subside, replaced by a quiet strength and unwavering resolve. And as the gentle melody continued, even the faintest trace of his anxieties faded away into a peaceful slumber. The air hung heavy with the scent of wood smoke and anticipation. Days bled into one another, each sunrise painting the vast plains of Kurukshetra in hues of orange and gold, a deceptive beauty masking the grim reality to come. Across the sprawling battlefield, two colossal armies lay poised, like slumbering giants waiting for the dawn of conflict. The silence, however, was not a peaceful one. It thrummed with a low, almost imperceptible tension, a feeling that burrowed deep into the very earth itself. You might picture the scene: thousands of tents, a city of canvas stretching as far as the eye could see, each a tiny island of hushed activity within the greater storm. Inside, warriors weren't shouting boasts or sharpening their blades with furious strokes. Instead, there was a methodical quiet, almost reverent in its intensity. Each movement was deliberate, each task performed with a weary focus. The clang of metal on stone as weapons were honed to razor sharpness was a constant yet subdued accompaniment to the whispering wind. It was the sound of preparation, not of excitement, a somber melody played out in the anticipation of death. Consider the soldiers, their faces etched with a mixture of grim determination and quiet fear. Many were young, barely men, their youthful faces barely hiding the tremble in their hands as they checked their armor, each piece a shield against the unknown. Older warriors, their bodies marked by countless battles, moved with a practiced stillness, their eyes holding the weight of experience, a deep understanding of the horrors to come. There was a shared sense of gravity, a heavy cloak of foreboding that settled upon them all. They weren't just preparing for battle, they were preparing for what might be their final moments. In the campfires, flickering like dying stars against the vast expanse of the night sky, stories were shared, not of glory, but of home, of loved ones left behind. These weren't tales of heroic deeds to be sung in the halls of kings, but quiet murmurs of family, of wives and children, the simple joys that would soon be lost. The shared meal was a simple one, eaten slowly, in near silence, each bite savored as if it might be the last. There was a profound sense of mortality hanging in the air, a stark awareness that many would not see the sun rise again. Horses were groomed, their manes and tails carefully braided, a silent testament to the respect given to these magnificent creatures, their faithful companions in the upcoming war. Chariots were inspected, their wheels oiled and tested, ensuring they would carry their riders through the coming carnage. The air was filled with the scent of polished leather and oiled wood, a complex aroma that underscored the meticulous care taken in readying for a conflict that would reshape the fate of nations. It wasn't a frenzied, chaotic preparation, but a quiet, somber ritual of accepting the unavoidable. A deep, almost sacred stillness preceded the storm. The quiet before the ultimate tempest. The land itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Imagine a vast battlefield, the air thick with dust and the cries of men. The sun beats down on chariots and warriors, a scene of immense turmoil. But amidst this chaos we find Arjuna, a great warrior, his heart heavy with a different kind of battle, the battle within. He stands before his own kin, his family, poised to engage in a terrible war. He sees his uncles, his cousins, his teachers, all arrayed against him. The weight of his duty, his Dharma, presses down. He knows he must fight, he is a warrior, but the thought of killing those he loves is unbearable. His bow slips from his grasp, his resolve shattered. Despair washes over him, a dark tide threatening to engulf him entirely. Then, from his chariot, his charioteer, Krishna, speaks. Not with shouts or commands, but with gentle, calming words, a soothing balm to Arjuna's tormented soul. Krishna, more than just a charioteer, is a guide, a teacher, a divine presence. He begins to unravel the complexities of Arjuna's inner conflict, gently leading him toward understanding. Krishna speaks of Dharma, of duty and righteousness, not as rigid rules, but as a path toward fulfilling one's potential. He explains that true action lies not just in physical deeds, but in the intention behind them. The act of fighting, the act of killing, can be righteous if it is done with a clear conscience, for the greater good, for the preservation of justice. He reminds Arjuna of the impermanence of all things, of the illusion of attachment. The body, he says, is mortal, a fleeting vessel. The soul, the Atman, is eternal, unchanging. Arjuna's grief stems from his clinging to the illusion of permanence, to the false belief that death is the ultimate end. Krishna reminds him to see beyond the surface, to recognize the divine spark within himself and all beings. Krishna's words flow like a quiet river, washing away the turmoil in Arjuna's mind. He speaks of selfless action, of karma yoga, the path of dedicated service without attachment to the fruits of one's labor. He encourages Arjuna to fulfill his duty, not for personal glory or gain, but because it is the right thing to do. He speaks of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas, the qualities of purity, passion, and inertia. He guides Arjuna to understand that through the practice of yoga, one can transcend these gunas, finding balance and inner peace. Krishna's wisdom unfolds slowly, like the gentle unfolding of a lotus blossom. He doesn't offer simple answers or easy solutions. Instead, he guides Arjuna toward self-discovery, toward a deeper understanding of himself and his place in the cosmos. He reminds him that true peace lies not in avoiding conflict, but in facing it with courage, compassion, and a deep awareness of the divine within himself and all beings. Let this feeling of serenity wash over you now, as the echoes of Krishna's words guide you toward your own inner peace. Sleep soundly. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of wood smoke and something else, something metallic, sharp, clinging to the back of the throat. The clash of armies unfolded, a slow, grinding symphony of destruction, not a glorious, triumphant roar, but a low, persistent hum of violence, like the distant drone of 1,000 angry bees. You could feel the earth tremble beneath you, a subtle but insistent vibration that spoke of the weight of marching feet and the thunder of charging horses. Far off, a lone trumpet called out, a mournful cry swallowed almost immediately by the cacophony of battle. Imagine it, the splintering of wood, the sickening thud of metal on bone, the ragged cries of men, rising and falling like a mournful tide. It wasn't a storm of furious action, but more like a relentless, creeping tide, consuming everything in its path. You were far enough away that the individual sounds were indistinct, blurring together into a dull, pervasive roar. Yet, even at that distance, you could feel the tension in the air, a palpable sense of impending doom that settled like a shroud upon the land. The sun, once bright and warm, was now veiled by a smoky haze, casting long, eerie shadows across the battlefield. A lone raven circled high above, a dark speck against the smoke-filled sky, a silent observer of the human drama unfolding below. Perhaps it had seen countless battles before, countless waves of destruction and despair. It knew the futility of it all, the senselessness of the clash. As the day wore on, the sounds of battle began to shift, to change. The sharp clang of swords gave way to the duller thud of falling bodies. The cries of the living faded, replaced by the agonizing moans of the wounded. The rhythmic beat of marching feet slowed, grew uneven, then finally ceased altogether. Slowly, gradually, the symphony of destruction began to fade. The roar subsided, becoming a whisper, then a sigh, finally disappearing entirely into the stillness of the evening. A fragile silence descended, punctuated only by the distant croak of a frog or the rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. The smoke still hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of the day's events, but the violence had receded, leaving behind an unsettling quiet. The echoes of battle lingered, faint whispers in the twilight. The scent of wood smoke and metal remained, a poignant memory of the day's carnage, but it was slowly being replaced by the gentler fragrances of damp earth and evening flowers. Night settled in, bringing with it a blanket of darkness and the promise of rest. The stars emerged, twinkling faintly in the smoke-filled sky, offering a silent vigil over the fallen. And in the quiet stillness of the night, you could almost hear the gentle sigh of the land, slowly beginning to heal. Now, as the embers of the day fade, let's drift into a quiet contemplation of heroes and villains. We often paint them in stark colors, don't we? Black and white, good and evil. But history whispers a different story, a story painted in gentle shades of gray. Think of Genghis Khan, a name that echoes through the centuries, often whispered with a shudder. A brutal conqueror, he carved an empire from the steppes of Asia, leaving a trail of bloodshed in his wake. Yet, some historians point to the Pax Mongolica, a period of relative peace and prosperity that followed his conquests, a time when trade flourished along the Silk Road and ideas flowed freely between East and West. Was he a villain, a destroyer, or a ruthless builder, a shaper of civilizations, however harsh his methods? The answer, my friends, is both, and neither. A complex tapestry woven from ambition, violence, and unexpected consequences. Think of Joan of Arc, the peasant girl who rose to become a military leader, inspiring armies to victory in the 100 Years' War. A devout believer, she claimed divine guidance, and her unwavering faith fueled her courage. To her followers, she was a saint, a symbol of hope in a time of chaos. Yet to her enemies, she was a heretic, a dangerous woman who challenged the established order. She was burned at the stake, a young woman condemned for her beliefs. But her legacy lives on, a testament to the power of faith, the strength of conviction, and the blurry line between righteousness and rebellion. Even in her martyrdom, her story is not easily categorized. Think of Robin Hood, a legendary outlaw who robbed the rich to give to the poor. A romantic figure, a champion of the downtrodden, he lives on in countless tales, a symbol of justice against oppression. But was he truly a hero? Or was he simply a thief, a bandit operating outside the law? His actions, though intended for good, still involved violence and lawlessness. Even our heroes sometimes operate in morally gray areas, their good intentions complicated by their methods. And what of the villains? Consider the Emperor Nero, often painted as a depraved tyrant, a monster who fiddled while Rome burned. But historical accounts are often biased, written by those who opposed him. Was he truly as monstrous as history depicts him? Or was he a victim of political machinations, a scapegoat for the failures of an empire? These stories, these lives, remind us that morality is not a simple equation. It's a swirling nebula, a complex interplay of motives, consequences, and perspectives. There is rarely pure good or pure evil, only human beings striving to navigate a world of conflicting desires and uncertain outcomes. As you drift off to sleep, let these stories settle gently in your mind, a gentle reminder that the human experience is far more nuanced, far more intricate than the simple labels we often apply. Let the shades of gray inspire your own introspection. Let the complexities of history lull you into a peaceful slumber. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the Kurukshetra battlefield, painting the dust a fiery orange before surrendering to the deepening twilight. The air, thick with the scent of sweat, blood, and drying earth, held a stillness that was more unsettling than the roar of battle that had preceded it. This quiet, this deceptive calm masked a tragedy of immense proportions. A young warrior, Abhimanyu, lay still, his youthful body a stark contrast to the brutal reality surrounding him. He had entered the Chakravyuha, that deadly formation, with the courage of a lion, a youthful exuberance that belied the danger. He'd learned only half the secret of breaking through its intricate lines, a knowledge imparted by his mother, Subhadra, during a hurried lesson in the womb. He'd fought with a skill beyond his years, a whirlwind of youthful energy against the seasoned warriors of the Kaurava army. He'd carved a path of defiance, a testament to his bravery, his spirit burning bright, even as the odds stacked relentlessly against him. But the sun that once shone upon his valiant efforts now seemed to weep, its setting light casting a melancholic glow on the scene. One by one, the Kaurava warriors, seasoned and ruthless, had fallen upon him, their combined strength too much for even his exceptional prowess. The whispers of their weapons, the clang of their shields, were replaced by the heavy silence that followed the fall of a hero. Imagine the scene. The young warrior, his breath ragged, his body weary from a battle fought far beyond his strength. His eyes, once blazing with determination, now clouded with pain, perhaps a flicker of regret that it had ended so soon. The weight of betrayal must have settled heavily upon him as he realized the full extent of the unfair fight, trapped within the formidable Chakravyuha without the complete knowledge to escape. His final moments were not a triumphant charge, but a quiet resignation, a young life extinguished before its time. The weight of his loss hung heavy in the air, a suffocating blanket of sorrow. The clash of cymbals and the thunder of war faded into the background, replaced by the gentle sobs of those who had witnessed his demise. His uncle, Arjuna, his father, Arjuna's closest friend, were far away, unable to offer their aid. His father-in-law, King Drupada, could only imagine his beloved son-in-law's last moments, his heart shattered by this cruel twist of fate. There was a profound sense of injustice, of a life brutally stolen before it could fully blossom. The very ground seemed to mourn, the stillness broken only by the quiet, anguished cries that arose from the battlefield. Let the quiet sadness of this event sink in, this poignant moment of loss, a reminder of the human cost of war, the devastation it leaves in its wake, not only on the battlefield, but in the hearts of those left behind. Let the image of young Abhimanyu, valiant and brave, rest in your thoughts, a testament to the resilience and fragility of the human spirit. Let the gentle sadness of his story lull you into a peaceful slumber. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of wood smoke and something else, something metallic, clinging to the back of the throat. The fighting had ceased, the relentless barrage of cannon fire finally silenced. A fragile peace settled over the battlefield, a deceptive calm that couldn't quite mask the devastation. You could almost hear the silence, vast and echoing, a testament to the lives lost, the futures shattered. Victory had come, hard won and dearly purchased. The enemy flag, tattered and torn, lay in the mud, a stark symbol of a war's end. But for those who remained, the taste of victory was bitter, ash on the tongue. The celebrations were muted, the cheers strained. Each survivor carried the weight of their losses, a heavy cloak woven from grief and exhaustion. Across the field, the landscape was a tapestry of destruction. Cratered earth scarred the ground, a testament to the relentless pounding of artillery. Broken wagons, splintered wood, and twisted metal formed a macabre landscape. And everywhere, the fallen. Rows upon rows of them, a grim harvest of war. Some lay still, almost peaceful in death. Others were twisted into unnatural positions, frozen mid-scream in the final moments of their lives. You walk among them, the mud sucking at your boots, each step a heavy burden. The faces of the dead, once full of life, were now pale and still, etched with the horrors they had witnessed. You search for familiar faces, searching for friends, brothers in arms, but all you find are strangers in death's embrace. The sun sets, casting long, somber shadows across the field. The air grows colder, a chilling reminder of the lives extinguished. A lone raven circles overhead, its cry a mournful counterpoint to the hushed whispers of the survivors. The smell of decay mixes with the metallic tang of blood, a lingering perfume of death hanging in the air. The wounded moan softly in makeshift field hospitals, their cries swallowed by the vastness of the battlefield. Doctors and nurses, their faces drawn and weary, work tirelessly, their hands moving with practiced efficiency, but their hearts heavy with sorrow. They are fighting a losing battle against the tide of death. Each bandage applied, each wound stitched, is a reminder of what has been lost, a painful counterpoint to the meager victory. The nights are long and cold, filled with the sounds of the dying and the whispers of the wind. Sleep offers little respite, filled with nightmares and the ghostly echoes of battle. The survivors huddle together, seeking warmth and comfort in shared grief. They share stories, remembering those who are gone, their voices hushed and reverent, a melancholic chorus of remembrance. The weight of their losses settles upon them, a heavy blanket that seems destined to remain for many years to come. The victory is theirs, but it comes at a cost too high to bear lightly. The silence of the battlefield whispers of the many who will never return, and of the heavy price of peace. The wind whispers through the broken stones, a mournful sigh across the empty fields. Once vibrant colors painted the landscape, the gold of ripening wheat, the emerald of sprawling vineyards, the deep crimson of poppies swaying in the summer breeze. Now only muted grays and browns remain. The land, once fertile and bountiful, is scarred. Deep trenches, like the wrinkles of an aged face, crisscross the earth, silent reminders of the battles fought. Broken walls stand sentinel, jagged teeth against the pale sky. What were once proud castles, homes to kings and queens, are now hollow shells, their grandeur reduced to crumbling masonry. The stones themselves seem to bear the weight of the past, etched with the silent stories of laughter and feasts, of whispered secrets and passionate declarations, all now swallowed by the dust of ages. A lone raven circles overhead, its dark silhouette a stark contrast against the ashen sky. Its caw, a lonely sound echoing across the desolate plains, is the only sound that breaks the stillness. Perhaps it searches for scraps amongst the rubble, a scavenger in a kingdom of ruins. The villages, once bustling with life, are now ghost towns. Empty houses stand like empty eye sockets, their windows vacant, staring out at a world that has moved on without them. Doors hang askew, their hinges rusted and broken, like weary shoulders slumped in defeat. Smoke no longer curls from chimneys, the hearth fires extinguished, leaving only cold ashes to mark where warmth once resided. A lone wildflower pushes its way through a crack in the pavement, a tiny splash of color in a monochrome world. It's a fragile thing, easily crushed, yet it persists, a testament to the enduring power of life. Even in this desolation, nature finds a way. The river, once a lifeblood, now flows sluggishly, its current slowed by the debris that clogs its path. Broken carts and discarded weapons lie half submerged, silent witnesses to the conflict that ravaged the land. The water itself seems to reflect the sorrow of the kingdom, its surface mirroring the gray skies above. As the sun dips below the horizon, casting long, melancholy shadows across the ravaged landscape, a quiet descends. It's a peace born not of joy, but of exhaustion, a heavy blanket settling upon the land. It's a peace that speaks of loss, of dreams shattered, of lives torn apart. But it is a peace nonetheless, a fragile truce between the living and the ghosts of the past. The stillness, broken only by the faint rustle of the wind, invites a slow, deep breath. The weight of the devastation is palpable, yet there's also a peculiar calm in the quiet desolation. Perhaps in this stillness, the seeds of hope can begin to grow, unseen, unheard, patiently waiting for the sun to rise again. Let the quietude wash over you. Let the desolation soothe your troubled mind. Close your eyes and breathe, and let sleep come. The dust settled on the Kurukshetra battlefield, a silence heavy with the weight of loss and the promise of a new dawn. Yudhisthira, the eldest Pandava, ascended the throne, his heart heavy but his spirit resolute. He had witnessed the horrors of war, the devastating cost of ambition and deceit. Now he faced the daunting task of rebuilding a kingdom shattered not just by physical destruction, but by the deep wounds of betrayal and bloodshed. His reign, a long and thoughtful one, became a testament to the quiet strength of justice and the painstaking work of reconciliation. He understood that true victory wasn't merely claiming the throne, but in fostering a society where peace flourished. His first acts were not of conquest or retribution, but of healing. He ensured the proper burial of the fallen, regardless of which side they fought on. He offered solace to the widows and orphans, providing for their needs with compassion and empathy. Imagine the quiet dignity of his actions, the slow, careful steps he took to mend a fractured land. His governance wasn't dictated by harsh laws or swift punishments, but by a deep understanding of Dharma, the righteous path. He established fair and equitable systems of taxation, ensuring that the burden was shared justly among his subjects. He appointed wise and capable ministers, trusting their judgment and valuing their counsel. He listened to the concerns of his people, their voices carrying a weight equal to the pronouncements of his advisors. Picture him, perhaps sitting under the shade of a banyan tree, patiently hearing the petitions of farmers, merchants, and artisans. He didn't shy away from difficult decisions. When faced with injustice, he acted swiftly and decisively, but always with fairness and consideration. He understood that true power wasn't about wielding authority, but about using it to protect the vulnerable and uplift the oppressed. There were times of hardship, of course. The scars of war ran deep, and rebuilding trust took years, perhaps generations. But Yudhisthira persevered, his unwavering commitment to Dharma guiding his every action. He was a king who valued wisdom over strength, counsel over command. He understood that a kingdom built on fear would crumble eventually, while one nurtured by justice and compassion would endure. His reign was a quiet revolution, a slow but steady transformation of a war-torn nation into a just and prosperous society. He showed that rebuilding is not merely about bricks and mortar, but about rekindling the spirit of hope and fostering a culture of empathy and understanding. So breathe deeply, and let the calm wisdom of Yudhisthira's reign guide your thoughts as you drift off to sleep. Let the image of a just king, patiently rebuilding his kingdom, settle in your mind and ease you into peaceful slumber. His story, a quiet whisper of wisdom from the past, will comfort you tonight. The Great War is over. The dust settles on Kurukshetra, and a profound silence descends. But the Mahabharata doesn't end with the final clang of the battlefield. It lingers, its echoes reverberating through centuries, whispering wisdom on the wind. Think of it, the weight of those actions, those losses, those triumphs, settling gently upon you now as the day's anxieties fade. The epic leaves behind more than just a story of kings and kingdoms. It offers a treasury of philosophical insights, timeless dilemmas that continue to resonate in our own lives. Consider the teachings of Krishna, the charioteer who became a divine guide. His words a balm on the wounded souls of Arjuna, and perhaps on yours too. His Bhagavad Gita, woven into the heart of the epic, explores the complexities of Dharma, the righteous path, a concept as relevant today as it was millennia ago. What is your Dharma? What is your purpose? Let the question rest peacefully within you, without needing an immediate answer. The epic grapples with the nature of duty, the burden of responsibility, and the agonizing choices we face when our loyalties are divided. Yudhisthira, the righteous king, embodies the struggle to uphold morality even in the face of devastating consequences. His unwavering commitment to Dharma, while admirable, also leads to immense suffering. It's a reminder that the path of righteousness isn't always easy, that it demands sacrifice, and that sometimes even the best intentions can lead to unforeseen pain. Breathe deeply. Allow the weight of these ancient questions to lull you towards peace. The Mahabharata also delves into the intricacies of human relationships, love, hate, betrayal, forgiveness. The tragic love story of Karna, the unjustly wronged warrior, still tugs at our hearts. His unwavering loyalty, despite the cruelty he endured, highlights the enduring power of devotion. And the tangled web of relationships within the Pandava and Kaurava families reminds us of the complexities of family bonds, the capacity for both great love and devastating conflict. Allow these images to drift peacefully through your mind, as calming as the slow drift of clouds across the night sky. The story explores themes of justice, revenge, and the cyclical nature of violence. The devastating consequences of the war serve as a cautionary tale against hatred and the futility of unending conflict. The lingering sense of loss, the enduring grief of the survivors, these are reminders of the profound impact of our choices, big and small. Feel the calming weight of history as you let these reflections soothe your mind. Even the seemingly smaller elements of the Mahabharata, the wise counsel of elders, the subtle nuances of diplomacy, the everyday struggles of ordinary people caught in extraordinary circumstances, all contribute to a rich tapestry of human experience. It's a story that encourages introspection, a mirror reflecting our own struggles, our own triumphs, our own capacity for both good and evil. Let the gentle rhythm of this narrative wash over you, easing the tension in your shoulders, softening the furrow in your brow. Let the wisdom of the Mahabharata, centuries old, settle upon you like a comforting blanket, its weight a symbol of peace, its echoes a lullaby. Sleep now. Let the ancient story guard your slumber. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, let us gently turn our thoughts inward, towards the quiet heart of the Mahabharata. We've journeyed through battles and betrayals, witnessed love and loss, and now, as the story fades, we find ourselves reflecting on its enduring wisdom. 3 words, 3 pillars support the weight of this epic tale: Dharma, Karma, and Moksha. Dharma. Think of it as the gentle current of a river, guiding you towards righteousness, towards what is right and true. It's not always a clear path. The river may twist and turn, flow swiftly or sluggishly, but it always moves towards the ocean of justice. Your dharma, your duty, is unique to you. It's woven into the fabric of your being, connected to your family, your community, your place in the world. Consider the gentle ripple your actions create in this river of dharma. Even small acts of kindness, small choices to be honest and compassionate, send out waves of positive energy. Let that thought settle within you, a calm and steady rhythm. Now consider karma. This isn't some vengeful force waiting to punish you. Think of it as a gardener tending a garden. Every seed you plant, every thought, word, and deed will grow into something. A kind act planted today might bloom into unexpected joy tomorrow, or even years from now. Conversely, a careless word might grow into a thorny weed, difficult to remove. Karma is not about judgment, but about cause and effect. It is a gentle reminder that our actions have consequences, a subtle guidance urging us to live thoughtfully, to cultivate the garden of our lives with care. Let this awareness soothe your mind, a peaceful acceptance of the natural order of things. Finally, moksha. This is the ultimate goal, the tranquil ocean where the river of Dharma finally finds its rest. It is liberation, release from the cycle of birth and death, a state of profound peace and understanding. It is not a destination reached only by saints and ascetics, but a gradual unfolding, a quiet blossoming of the soul. Moksha is not something to be grasped or attained through force, but rather a gentle unfurling, like a lotus flower opening its petals to the sun. Imagine yourself resting on the shores of this peaceful ocean. Feel the gentle breeze on your skin, the warm sand beneath your feet. Let this image fill you with a sense of quiet contentment. The Mahabharata is a story of immense complexity, a tapestry woven with threads of conflict and resolution, of triumph and despair. But at its heart lies a simple truth. The path to a fulfilling life is paved with dharma, shaped by karma, and ultimately leads to moksha. As you drift towards sleep, allow these ancient principles to guide your thoughts. Let the image of that tranquil ocean, the peaceful shore, fill your mind. Breathe deeply, and let the gentle rhythm of your breath carry you into a restful and rejuvenating slumber. Sweet dreams. The final embers of the day glow softly, mirroring the quiet wisdom that settles over the plains of Kurukshetra long after the great battle has faded into legend. Imagine yourself there, nestled amongst the whispering grasses, the scent of earth and distant woods filling the air. The sounds of the day, the clang of weapons, the cries of warriors have all dissolved into the gentle sigh of the evening breeze. Only the stars remain, vast and comforting, their light a quiet companion in the deepening twilight. The Mahabharata, a story whispered across generations, has drawn to a close for tonight. You've journeyed alongside Arjuna, witnessed his struggles and triumphs, his doubts and his unwavering devotion. You've felt the weight of Krishna's counsel, the wisdom that flowed like a calm river, guiding the hero through the turbulent waters of conflict and despair. And you've glimpsed the vast tapestry of human experience woven into the very fabric of the tale. Think of the lessons you've carried away, perhaps the importance of Dharma, of righteousness and duty, or the ever-present dance between good and evil that plays out in every heart. Perhaps you've learned about the enduring power of family, the complex bonds of love and loyalty, and the inevitable consequences of our choices. These are not just ancient stories. They are echoes in our own souls, whispers of the human condition that resonate across time. Let the quiet wisdom of the Mahabharata settle into your mind, a gentle balm to soothe any anxieties that linger. Let the image of the peaceful night sky above Kurukshetra rest upon your eyelids, a blanket of stars that holds you safely. The heroes have rested, their battles fought, their destinies fulfilled. Now it's your turn to find peace. Close your eyes and feel the weight of your body sinking into the comforting embrace of your bed. Let the rhythm of your breath slow, a gentle tide ebbing and flowing. Feel the tension melting from your muscles, releasing the day's worries like leaves falling from a tree. Imagine the warmth spreading through you from the tips of your toes to the crown of your head. The world outside fades away, replaced by the stillness within. You are safe, you are protected, you are cradled in the embrace of the night. The story of the Mahabharata continues to unfold in the silent depths of your being, but for now you are allowed to rest, to dream, to simply be. The quiet wisdom of the epic guides your dreams, transforming them into gentle landscapes of peace and understanding. You may find yourself walking through fields of wildflowers, their colors as vibrant as the characters you've met, yet their fragrance as calming as the night itself. You might find yourself listening to the murmuring of a quiet stream, carrying away the weight of the world, leaving only serenity in its wake. Sleep soundly, knowing you've embarked on a peaceful journey through a timeless tale. You've walked with kings and warriors, witnessed great battles and profound wisdom. And now you deserve this respite. You deserve this peace. You deserve this rest. Good night. Let the quiet stars keep watch over you until the morning light.